It's just that unfortunately, today I don't have it for you. Okay, so back when the Regents was first created, can we kill the lights, please? Back when the Regents was first created, nobody anywhere had any idea what the Regents for Common Core would look like. So I bought a whole bunch of questions from this company called Topical Book Review, and they gave us sample questions. And some of them wound up being pretty accurate. Some of them wound up being significantly easier than the actual Regents exam questions. But what I did was I went through and I took some of them out and used them now as do-it questions to help us understand. So that's what these are. These are not, remember how I always talk to you about those fonts and how you can tell if I made it up versus the state? Well, this is a third resource. If the font looks like this, it's from Topical Book Review. Which statement is true about the accompanying graph? It's decreasing when x is between -1 and 3. It is increasing when x is greater than 1 and negative when x is less than 0. It is increasing when x is greater than 1 and negative when x is between -1 and 3. It is decreasing when x is between -1 and 3 and positive when x is greater than 3. All right, well, let's see. The graph itself is going to be decreasing, because that seems to be what they're talking about, from here to here. And then it's going to be increasing from here to here. So let's take a look at these choices now. Change colors of pen. Is it decreasing when x goes from -1 to 3? So from -1 for x to 3. No, because see, here's where x is greater than, right in here, x is greater than, is between -1 and 3, but the graph is clearly increasing, so that's not true. It's increasing when x is greater than 1. It is increasing when x is greater than 1. That is true. And it's negative when x is less than 0. That's not true, though, because look, here's an area where x is less than 0, but the graph itself is positive, so that's not true. It's increasing when x is greater than 1. That's true. And it's negative when x is between -1 and 3. That's true. Right? When x is between -1 and 3, isn't the graph in the negative area? Right? Can we all see the graph in the negative area there? So therefore, choice 3 is the correct answer. Okay, number 22, classic tricky question. I cannot remember if your older brother got this right on the Regents exam or if he came out of the exam and said, that's the one I got wrong. But I know he talked about it. There was a question very similar to this one. His one was actually p to the 4th minus 81. But the question is, how do I factor this guy? And the way I'm going to factor it, I hope you see that it's the difference in two perfect squares, which would make it x squared plus y squared times x squared minus y squared. And the one your brother had to do was not multiple choice, so those weren't there to guide him. The problem is this can be factored again. And I get x squared plus y squared times x plus y times x minus y. And this is about as dirty, rotten, low-down, skeevy as the test can give you with factoring. Okay? So, be prepared for it. The one your brother had to do was this. P to the 4th minus 81, which is p squared plus 9 times p squared minus 9. And that became p squared plus 9 times p plus 3 times p minus 3. And I can't remember if he nailed it or if he came out and said, I think I screwed it up. I just remember him talking about that one.
How do you remember that?
Because in Aiden's case, every year there are a handful of kids that you look at and you say, you know, if things break right, maybe, just maybe they could get 100. And on the Common Core Regents, no one's gotten 100 from me yet. He had the highest, I think it was 96. I'm not sure, but I think it was a 96. The year before the Common Core Regents, Jennifer Lee got 100 on the integrated algebra Regents. I've had a lot of kids get 100 on that. But that test is significantly easier. So. Okay. And last but not least, it says to solve for x. 2x squared plus 4x minus 16 equals 0. When we look at this, what's the very first thing we should always do? Common factor, very good. So I pull it out and I get x squared plus 2x minus 8 equals 0. Then I factor this, x plus 4 times x minus 2 equals 0. Maybe it's the guy on the left. Maybe it's the guy in the middle. Maybe it's the guy on the right. That's ridiculous. I reject it. I try it. It's possible. You're like a detective at a crime scene, right? Like, let's say that there were, let's say for argument's sake, that something was stolen from the main office. And they narrow it down to 3 kids. This kid, or this kid. What's one of the first things the cops always do?
Say where you've been.
That's right. They check for an alibi. Now, it's like this guy goes up and goes, yo, I was sick all day. I wasn't even in the building. Then the cops are going to say, okay, you can't be the criminal. Does 2 ever equal 0?
No.
No, so I cross it out. I considered it as a possibility, and then I said, no, it can't be. So I reject that answer. In this case, minus 4, x is negative 4, add 2, x is 2. So my correct answers are negative 4. Hey, do I reject the negative answer? No, why not? Right, there's no context in which I would reject it. If it was about time, if it was about distance, I don't know, a population maybe, you can't have negative things in a population, then I would reject it. But this is the way it is, it's just an equation, so we do it. All right, any questions? All right. Now, what?
Maybe I had a question.
I'm sorry, Pete.
What's that like timeline thing?
I don't know. I don't know. My guess is that, you know how like you use copy and paste and you do a little marching ants around the figure when you highlight the area or whatever? I think this was to the question above it. So that would be my guess. Now, here's the next thing. You see this question here? We're not going to do it.
Oh, okay, but I did it.
Great. We're not going to do it because the first year that this Regents exam came out, or this curriculum came out, and they had not given any sample Regents exams, I remember seeing this question and rolling my eyes and going, you've got to be kidding me. There is no way. They're not going to be able to do it. They're just not. This is like a 12th grade question. And I said, there's no way. It would take so much to teach this concept and so much to get this particular, well, it's either easy or it's hard. Like, it's easy if it's this. A y-intercept of 1, so it touches there. And 2 additional points are 328, which is up here, and negative 2, 3, which is here. So I can pair it up. And by the way, there aren't even any roots to work backwards from because, well, it's possible there are no roots to work backwards from because it doesn't look like things are going to pair up. And I just said, there's no way. It's out of control. The way to solve this is just ridiculous. So I went through that and I told the kids, I said, I'll come back at the end of the year. If we finish early, I'll go back and I'll teach you this because it's going to take me 2 or 3 days to get you any good at this. And I don't think they would ever put it on the Regents. So at the end of the year, if we have 2 or 3 extra days, we'll go over it. So we had 2 or 3 extra days. And we went over it. And we taught it to them. And I just remember looking at the whole class and seeing this glassy-eyed stare just coming back at me like. So last year I made the executive decision to not teach it. And we're now 6 Regents exams in. Nothing even remotely close to it has ever been on any Regents exam. So I would rather not take 3 days to do this. I would rather have 3 extra days of review at the end of the year. So playing the odds, is there a 1 in 1,000 chance it'll be on the test? I guess so. But there's a 999 out of 1,000 chance the other stuff is going to be there, and I'd rather get better at the other stuff because at the end of the day, I think I'll save myself points, and I really truly don't believe this is going to be on the test. Okay? So, what I want you guys to do now, it really is a ridiculous question. Starting with the homework, get together, work with whomever you want to work with, and get the homework done. If any of you are still having difficulty with certain types of factoring or equations, and you want to bring up questions and ask them, you can do that now as well. Whatever